Good afternoon, everybody. It's a nice, cool area for us to talk in. Right, hello. My name's Simon Valcarcel. I look after the marketing for Virgin Media O2.
My name is Morten. I am creative director at Faith and VCCP.
Yeah, and what we're going to do today is just lift the lid a little bit on our AI journey that we've gone on together that's ultimately culminated in Daisy, which I hope you'll hear a bit more about. But before we do, we have got somebody extra as part of our team. Just say a little hello, but you'll hear a bit more from her in a bit.
Oh, hello, dears. Blimey, there are a lot of you. So nice to be invited to Madfest. I'll pass you back over to Simon and Morten. Toodle pip.
Thank you very much, Daisy. She's here in spirit. She's always here. She's actually in all your phones, but we'll get to that later. Morten, do you want to tell us a bit more about Faith and our kind of partnerships together?
I will. So Faith is a creative agency that VCCP started in May 2023. Back then there was a lot of sort of negative talk about AI and what it's going to do to the industry, and we really wanted to sort of have an opposing point of view. We thought that getting in early and actually sort of using AI is the best way to sort of attack the beast that is AI. So we came up with this sort of guiding principle that says that we have faith that AI used responsibly is an accelerator of human creativity and imagination. And we have actually, VCCP has been working with O2 since our inception 23 years ago, so it felt like O2 would be the perfect founding client for us as well, for Faith. So we actually started out working with them really, really early on. We actually started out earlier than this, but doing concepting, but by March 2023, we were doing storyboarding, we were doing all these sorts of things that I think many agencies were doing. And then we wanted to sort of try and take it further and sort of saying, can we actually use it to generate real assets that can be used in the real world? And then finally using more product services, Daisy, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on. But Simon first is going to talk a bit about Bubl Generator.
Yeah, so this, just go back one, please, Morten. Thank you, mate. So this, as you see kind of Daisy grayed out here, I'm just going to tell you a little bit of our story about how we got from really our first steps kind of a couple of years ago right to where Daisy left us kind of last week in Cannes. And it all started with finding your people. That's the best way I can describe it. So me and my team, incredibly curious about tech, incredibly curious about AI, and Faith and VCP, they just lean into everything that everyone else is running away from. And so marketing agencies would think it's going to be the death of the advertising industry. VCP started up an AI part of their partnership. And so we naturally were drawn to that. And that really starts our journey together. So this little blue chap, Bubl the robot, we had him as a kind of a advertising platform for about 4 or 5 years. And Bubl was fantastically manicured, as you can see, really expensive, took quite a bit of time to generate. Needed designers, cost a bit of money, and Bubl was across everything. Standard marketing assets that you see every day. So when we started to lean in and go, well, I wonder these new kind of image generation models, could they help us? And the problem is that AI doesn't know the brand very well at all. This was some very simple prompts, a small blue O2 robot, and this is what it came back with. So really that was the first challenge that we set, that we worked on with VCP and Faith to try and tackle.
Exactly, yeah. And what we very quickly found out is we needed to train our own models, because that's the only way you can get your brand, whatever it is, it's brand character, you can train specific models to recognize that character. So that's what we did. Obviously, we had some assets of Bubl already, because we've done previous campaigns. So we used that and we sort of put that into a training process and train the model. And the idea is then you can create infinite images. But it's not actually that easy. There is a lot of images that we didn't have. Let's say, what does Bubl look from the side or from behind? There's different angles that we've never actually used Bubl in. And so we needed to actually do a little bit more work and create a long iterative process where we actually created the 3D model first. We then used a 3D engine to do virtual photo shoots to fill out all the gaps that we needed in order to train the model even further so it can learn what he looks like in all kinds of different situations. And that ended up with a interface which VMO2 had access to, where they could go in and create basically their own assets, and they create anything they want, basically. And that actually comes with a bit of a challenge, because if you have a brand, you don't just want to create anything, it has to be on brand. So for example, Bubl would never actually hold a lightsaber like we see down there. He would never wear a purple hat. So it just goes to show that as you create these models, it's really important to keep in mind what your brand is and what it isn't. We've got actually a little video that explains this in detail.
So, you may be thinking here, that's great. That's really old. Why am I sitting here looking something that the brand no longer looks like it in the future? But this proof of concept, and that's what it was a proof of concept. It was to develop the trust between ourselves and Faith. It was to, when I say to find your people, we deepened our relationships, we deepened our understanding, we failed together, we learned so much. We used it generally in internal, so this is just some of my team meeting stuff that we used it. We used it in social, not loads, but we used it a decent amount in social. But it was really, as I said, the result of everything that we've done before led us to our next problem. So I'm going to play you a little clip just to set up the issue of fraud in the UK.
Minimize the support. Why are you opening that again and again if I'm telling you not to? Again, you're clicking on support? Are you stupid or you don't understand English? What the f is wrong with you? I'm telling you, do not touch on support. Why are you clicking on it again and again? Oh my God, you stupid f***ing bitch.
So that was a real scam call that targets, well, 7 in 10 of us every single year in this country. It is a massive problem. It puts the reputation of banks, HMRC, telcos at risk. It costs our customers thousands and thousands of pounds. And it costs us as a business millions of pounds a year. Just to give you a little bit of context, in the last 2 years, we stopped 168 million fraudulent texts from landing on people's phones, and we halted last year about 250 million pounds worth of fraudulent transactions. And that is just a small part of the issue at O2. And so the business problem, which actually we've had for a good couple of years, so the business problem which we've been working on with VCP and with anyone who will listen to us really, is, you know, the scam epidemic is costing O2 customers thousands and damaging our reputation. That was nothing new. The human insight also is nothing new. People hate scammers. I'm sure, well, hopefully there's 7 out of 10 of you in this room, but hopefully more, or not, hopefully not more actually, that have been targeted by scammers, and it is awful. And it's all ages. It's not old, it's not young, it is literally across the board. So everyone hates scammers, but also as Brits, I think, like a little bit of karma as well. So that was the kind of the insight behind that we kind of went into. And AI really gave us that opportunity to scale the issue. AI doesn't eat, doesn't sleep, can scale, can sit on the phone for as long as possible. And that is really where the genesis of the idea came from that Faith works on.
Yeah, so obviously the natural conclusion is an AI granny that designed to waste scammers' time. But actually this, like Simon was saying, this only really came about because we knew very well what what some of the issues that O2 was facing was, but we also had seen lots of these scam baiting videos, which you may also have seen online, which is really, really good content. So we thought, okay, that'd be really good for us to activate that. And we also are in this idea of trying to show what can we actually use AI for that is good, because there's lots of stuff you can use AI for which isn't so good. So that's where we ended up with Daisy. And when we started out with Daisy, we thought, okay, you got AI, you can go anywhere. Like, what does Daisy look like? So, but we very quickly knew that we didn't want her to be some sort of fashionista, super AI granny that sort of was, you know, an absolute beast. We didn't want that because we wanted it to be as relatable as possible. And so what we did was, like we had a Bubl Generator earlier, we created a Granny Generator, and we generated a whole bunch of grannies. And we did that because obviously we wanted to make sure that we got someone who felt relatable. And yeah, these are a few of the images we did. And then we did virtual casting afterwards. So we actually used these AI grannies to go through a normal casting process, the same way you would with real people. And then we came up with what ended up being Daisy. The other thing that's really was important to us is to have a really good backstory for Daisy. Because when a scammer calls on the phone, they will ask loads and loads of information. They want to know everything about whoever they're talking to because they can use that in their scams. So we spent a lot of time crafting a huge backstory for Daisy about, you know, where does she live? She had a husband who sadly died. All her hobbies, everything she likes. And that really helps us be able to keep talking to the scammers and keep them online for a very long time. Because basically they will keep asking and we'll keep interrupting, talking about all these things which are meaningless to the scammers, but really helps waste their time. This was also based on a lot of people in the agency's real grannies. So we all sort of merged our grannies together into Daisy because we wanted to be as relatable as possible. So that's what we did. Technically at the time, it was nearly impossible to do that. It was actually impossible in the beginning. So what we did was we built a framework where we could chain a whole bunch of models together and make sure that we could, whenever a new model came out, we would swap out different models and sort of update them until we got to a point where, first of all, the fidelity of the quality of the output was good enough in terms of the voice, but also the latency, because obviously if it's 3-second latency between the responses, it doesn't feel very, really real. So the first 3 models here is just a simple voice recognition model that turns everything the scammer is saying into text. Then we had a personality model, which was basically a fine-tuned version of an LLM, which was highly fine-tuned with Daisy's personality, all the things we talked about earlier. And we had a specific voice model we trained as well. At the time, the voice models available were either very robotic or they were sort of performance models, which tried to do like a theater performance, which was completely useless to us because we needed something which was very conversational. So we actually, again, we went to the agency and we did internal casting for real grandmothers this time. And we then lent the voice of a colleague's grandma, which we then spent loads and loads of hours of training data to create this model. And finally, we created an image model based on this casting earlier, so we could bring it to life in the on the comms side. Obviously, the 2 bottom models wasn't really used against the scammers, but it was used to tell the story afterwards. And finally, a really important part of this as well is someone who has a lot of experience with this. If you've ever seen scam interceptors on BBC or you've seen some YouTube videos about scammers, you've probably seen this guy. This is Jim Browning. He's a sort of white hat hacker who actually brings down scammers. And we reached out to him and he was really, really helpful. He told us a lot about all the different scams that are out there, because he's an expert. He listens to this every single day. And also, he gave us some anonymized data about scams, which we could help train the model so it knows even more about how scammers work. And that really helped us do this. And we've got a little video to show you before we finish.
Ma'am, if you're aware of that and you don't know how to use the Play Store application, you are going to lose all of your money, ma'am.
Oh dear, that sounds quite alarming. I'm just trying my best here, you know. The spinning circle is still going and I'm worried about my money. but I really don't want to share anything. Hello, scammers. I'm your worst nightmare.
There is a new weapon in the fight against phone scammers.
Now, let me introduce you to Daisy here.
Sì, si chiama Daisy.
An artificial intelligence granny.
Para combater estelionatários.
Daisy's job is to play dumb.
She's been designed to annoy the scammers, and she keeps them on the phone for ages and ages.
To waste those scammers' time to make sure they're not targeting someone else.
How clever.
Very clever.
The scammers go insane.
It's nearly been an hour. For the love of
Gosh, how time flies.
We used number seeding to get Daisy's number onto scam call center databases. Then all we had to do was wait for the phone to ring.
It's showing me a picture of my cat, Fluffy.
It's showing you a picture of your cat, Fluffy.
I'm just trying to have a little chat.
Stop calling me dear, you stupid.
Got it, dear.
Okay, dear. Yes, dear.
Holy this is amazing.
Your computer is on right now?
No, I think it's off, but I'll get it turned on in just a moment. I use it mostly for looking up knitting patterns and, the occasional recipe for scones. I do adore a good scone. If you're interested, I could share my recipe for a lovely...
Look at me, Mama. Not interested in your recipes, okay?
Oh dear, you sound a bit frustrated. Mustache, scammers to scam and all that. Speak soon, scammers.
So the results and the response to Daisy was quite frankly incredible. We planned for it, but I think it helped. It had a quiet news day. If Trump had said something, I'm sure Daisy would have had something to say about it. But it really picked up, and it picked up because it really resonated with people, and it was a novel solution for AI for good. And as much as I love the marketing metrics, I mean, I love them. Awareness goes up, consideration goes up. There's always a bit of did anything actually happen in the business? And it did on this occasion. It happens all the time, but on this occasion particularly. You know, if we compare the number of calls that are now being flagged by our AI tools, then people are picking them up, they've dropped by 40%. And the number of fraudulent activity has dropped by 50% compared to this time last year. So it's having a real business impact on what we do at O2. And I think that was probably one of the reasons why Daisy had such a good time in Cannes, actually. You see her on the gutter bar up here making some scones and picking up a few awards. But I think the one thing that I want to kind of leave you with, because the title of this presentation was, how do you use AI, in our case, Daisy, to stay on the right side of history? And my own reflection on it is decide what future you want to be part of. Research, read. Max Tegmark's Life 3.0 is a fantastic book that charts the start of AI, where it's going, and then debates what kind of future do you want to be part of. Because I tell you, it's not going to be done to us. Every single person in this room has the autonomy to change their role, their team, you name it, anything that you could do. If you lean in and decide that, do you know what, I want to use AI for good, like you can then go and make that happen. And I think that's why we kind of found such kindred spirits, because that is exactly how Faith set up, leaned into it. That's what we did, and this is the result. Thank you for your time.